Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We're scrambling in 428 Shibuya Scramble. I'm here with Yoshi.
What's up, folks?
And this is episode 19. We've been doing this for a while. Do you remember what happened last time?
We spent some time in the mall, and Achi found the good twin. He was talking to the evil twin and thought that she was the good twin, but then he found the good one in the basement, and everyone kept changing clothes. So there was like a farce, kind of. There's an element of farce. And then Nagishita is like still in hot water. He's being pursued by the Yakuza, but then they also saw that sad sack guy, and they're like, we're gonna go for him instead. That's what I remember. How did I do?
I think you did well. We did finish up Achi and Maria's storylines for the hour. Achi ended up... they met up with Kanan. After all that running around, they managed to get out of the mall and avoid both the foreigners and the killer, the assassin, who was distracted because they saw Maria. They ended up ganging up on Maria, and Maria is the one that is currently at gunpoint. She ended her story at gunpoint. Let's see, who do we have open? We've got Osawa and Minorikawa. Oh yeah, we finished Kano like a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, we did kind of quite a while ago. Alright, let's check in with Minorikawa.
Alright. Trying to remember what happened. Oh yeah, we were waiting for this guy, right? And he was arrested? Is he still arrested?
Osawa?
Yeah, he went to Osawa's place. Wait, let me just do a little skim. Yeah, he went to Osawa's place to interview the twins. And last time we were here, he was arrested. I wonder if it's changed. The front door flew open. Oh. Several men came rushing out and surrounded Minorikawa.
Whoa, what?
Minorikawa blurted.
What gives?
I guess I'll be a police guy.
We have material witness A in custody.
Huh? Material witness A? What are you talking about? Just who do you think I am? I'm Minorikawa. Hey, come on, let me go.
Despite his protests, the men held on to him, flashing police badges. They refused to explain what was going on.
This is an unlawful arrest. All it'll take is one blurb from me and you're all fired. If I make myself clear, are you even listening to me? Hey, listen up. Listen to me.
But Minorikawa's voice was drowned out amidst the detectives' frenzied shouting. They look pretty stern to me. I don't see any shouting.
Yeah, they're not that frenzied.
Alright, well, something happened. Something changed. Minorikawa got arrested without even knowing what he'd done wrong. Needless to say, he's not actually material witness A. This all happened because of something Osawa said, but he only said it because of something someone else said to him. Further along in Osawa's story, you should be able to find out who said the wrong thing. So shall we go to Osawa then?
Sounds like that's what we gotta do.
Alright. I want to go to this screen. and choose him, so he does the little, we zoom into his face. Do you remember who's saying this?
Is it Bay? The monkey guy with the bananas?
No. For a second there, I thought you were gonna say it's Kano's girlfriend's dad.
Oh, you know, if I had to guess, though, yeah, that was a joke. For real, if I had to guess, I would say probably, for my money, it's going to be Kano's GF's dad, maybe.
Well, if you did guess that, you would have been close. It's actually Kano who's saying this.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Because I think at this point he's on the phone with Kano. Osawa's mind went blank when he heard what Kano said next. He could give no reply.
Mr. Osawa?
The detective continued after a moment.
Is everything all right?
Without really thinking, Osawa hung up. Osawa staggered out of the living room. He needed to be alone. To his surprise, Kajiwara didn't try to stop him. Shutting his study door behind him, he dropped onto his sofa, then got out a bottle of pills. He stared at it, thinking back on what the detective had told him.
I know what the syndicate is really after, Mr. Osawa. It's you. Oh yeah, we chose to say that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we chose to say that.
I picked it because I thought it was a stupid one. We'll see how it bears out.
Detective Kano had a point. From a financial perspective, Osawa's discoveries, and indeed Osawa himself, were incredibly valuable. Immersed as he was in his research, he had never imagined he'd become a target. The kidnappers had used that artlessness to catch him completely off his guard. He thought back to the emails that A had sent him. For now, they were just stringing him along, but before long, the guilt bombs might turn into more direct threats. They would extort his money, steal his research, and finally have him killed. It was so easy to see what their plan was now. And the worst of it was, he wasn't their only target. Kidnapping Mario would only be A's first step. Osawa contemplated in horror how his family would all be victimized because of him. There was only one thing he could do. He poured a mound of his sleeping pills out into his hand. Then without any hesitation, he gulped down the lot. The effect on his body was slow to start, but he felt a deep and irresistible drowsiness began to creep over him. As his consciousness was starting to fade, he heard the distant sound of the front door chime. Moments later, the study door opened, and Kajiwara peered inside to see Osawa lying on the floor.
Mr. Osawa, are you okay? Mr. Osawa! Mr. Osawa!
The detective's voice was rapidly fading out, as Osawa surrendered to the irresistible urge to drift into sleep. His mouth gaped open.
A has come for me.
Those were his last words.
Oh, this seems not good. If those are his last words, that can't be good.
I guess that's why Minorikawa was taken in. They called him A. The threat of A, when he heard that he was the kidnapper's target, the stricken Osawa decided to commit suicide by overdosing on sleeping pills. This is all because of what Kano said to him. Kano. A simple error in word choice led Osawa to a completely wrong conclusion. Kano ought to properly inform Osawa just what the kidnappers are after.
Damn. We should not. We weren't supposed to do the stupid one.
Alright, what decision was it? Was it this? Alright.
I know what the syndicate is really after, Mr. Osawa. It's the virus.
You're going with virus?
I'm going with the virus. No more joke answers. It's the virus.
Alright, well, we'll continue this line. Osawa remains silent. Oh, and we gotta jump. We'll do it in a bit.
Mr. Osawa? Is everything alright?
The line went dead. Oh, technically, that's incorrect, Stanley muttered. It's not the virus they're after. It's his daughter, Tony, who's carrying the antiviral. We got berated by Stanley.
That's all he does is berate us.
It's a bad end again. It's still a bad end. I think this is the other bad end. Yeah, the thought of the Ua virus devastating Japan filled Osawa with despair. Blaming himself, he asked to be arrested. But this only happened because of what Kano said to him. A simple error in word choice led Osawa to a completely wrong conclusion. So we should follow Stanley's advice and say it's Hitomi.
Fine. Really, it's the virus, though, right? The antiviral, you know, it's not like, you know, it's like the virus, basically.
It's Hitomi.
Alright. It's Hitomi.
Osawa remains silent.
Mr. Osawa, is everything alright?
The line went dead. Is Stanley gonna say right on the money? Oh.
Guess that answers that well enough.
Kano said as he put away his phone. His F900i. Okay. Alright, things have opened up. So did you want to go to Osawa or Minorikawa?
Let's stick with Minorikawa.
Okay. And we're gonna keep waiting, right?
Oh, yeah.
He decided to wait a little bit longer.
Just 5 more minutes.
A woman's voice came through the intercom.
Oh, is this IE?
I think so.
She's like, who is it? It's Minorikawa. Where would I know you from, Mr. Minorikawa? Oh, you know, here and there. I mean, there's only one Minorikawa, really. I don't have time for such nonsense. Please, be on your way. I'm not going anywhere until I get an interview. Interview? Who are you with?
The woman's tone had changed now.
Oh, nailed it.
Maybe Minorikawa could simply talk his way through this.
This is a piece for 4-star general gossip. Ah, perfect. I've been wanting to talk to them.
Was this one of the Miss Midoriyama winners? Or perhaps it was the girl's mother, eager to boast about her daughter's achievement.
I assume you're familiar with defamation of character?
The woman said.
What are you talking about? Article 230 of the Penal Code of Japan defines it as any attack against a person's reputation or societal standing. It's a very serious crime. I know what it is.
Minorikawa said.
What's your point?
He had a bad feeling about this. Why discuss libel laws right before an interview?
Oh, I'm not letting you get away with telling me you've forgotten. I wonder if you'll remember once I bring up charges.
Her tone was calm and level, but laced with malice.
Ooh, nailed it. You're talking nonsense, lady. Are you the mother? I've got business with your daughters. Put one of them on the line. Nonsense?
The woman's wrath radiated from the intercom. Nailed it.
Nailed it. It's your 4-star general gossip that specializes in nonsense.
Her voice was so loud that it was cracking.
Detective, arrest this man. He's a criminal. Detective, huh? You don't really think I'd fall for that, do you, lady? Just who do you think I am? I'm Minorikawa.
He crossed his arms and struck a defiant pose. Then the front door opened up, and several men came trotting out.
Sir,
One of the men said.
we'd like to ask you a few questions.
At the word sir, the man flashed his badge, and Minorikawa turned to run on reflex. He hadn't thought she'd actually send detectives after him. Just what the hell had Heaven Publishing done to her? Never mind, he needed to get out of here. He couldn't afford to get arrested right now.
He didn't make it too far.
Out with it. You abducted that girl, didn't you?
Detective, you keep asking me the same question over and over.
Do you think this is Detective Kajiwara, actually?
Um,
And I'll keep
Maybe.
on asking until you tell me the truth.
That's not Kajiwara's voice.
look, ask all you want, but I can't tell you what I don't know.
Then let's go back to the beginning, shall we?
Oh, cut the crap. I don't have time for your games.
As a matter of fact, you have plenty of time. I can assure you of that.
The stubborn detective flashed him a grin. Is there a banana in that grin? Probably.
I can keep doing this for days if that's what it takes to get you to confess.
And so the interrogation went on for hours. In the end, once his innocence had been established, Minorikawa was finally released. He wrote a scathing indictment on his experience. The report shook up the system in a major way. But that's another story for another day. Welp, Minorikawa was arrested for a crime he had nothing to do with. We're hitting all these bad ends, huh? That woman he talked to must really, really hate 4-star general gossip. Clearly he had no hope of getting anywhere with her, but maybe there's someone more understanding who might answer the intercom instead.
Alright, so we need to get someone else on the intercom.
Alright, so all we have... Wait, Kano? No. Yeah, all we have is Osawa. So I'm gonna jump into Osawa. Skip forward. There we go.
I know what the syndicate is really... Oh.
Sorry, I didn't think you were going to read it.
Yeah, I don't know. I was up there for a few seconds, so I decided to read it.
Osawa's mind went blank when he heard what Kano said next. He could give no reply.
Mr. Osawa?
The detective continued after a moment.
Is everything alright?
Without really thinking, Osawa hung up. Osawa staggered out of the living room. He needed to be alone. To his surprise, Kajiwara didn't try to stop him. Shutting his study door behind him, he dropped onto his sofa, then grabbed 3 times his normal dosage of stomach pills. There was no water in the room, so he had to swallow them dry. Detective Kano's words echoed in his mind.
I know what the syndicate is really after, Mr. Osawa. It's Hitomi. Hitomi.
There's only one reason they could be after Hitomi. He broke out in a cold sweat as he began to understand what this kidnapping was really about. It had all started 6 days earlier. It was April 22nd. 22, I guess. Osawa had just returned from the United States the day before. He was in the midst of some routine work at the General Research Lab when his cell phone rang. The LCD's display showed an unlisted caller. With some hesitation, Osawa picked up.
Hello?
Who should be this unknown caller? Do you want to do it or you want me to do it?
You can do it.
Alright. Let's see. What does this unknown caller sound like?
Maybe he's breathing heavily.
Okay.
Is this Genji Osawa?
I wonder if the mic picked that up. Did you hear that?
I heard some breathing.
Okay.
Yeah.
The caller was using a voice modulator.
Nailed it.
Which is a type of device or software used to make one's voice sound different. Changing a voice to the point of making voice print and tone amounts is possible, but that's a major challenge. To be able to do so in real time requires major financial and technological resources. Osawa raised an eyebrow.
Yes.
Alright. Voice modulator.
Go and analyze Hitomi's blood.
Her blood?
If you don't, she's going to die.
With that, the caller hung up. Great, I don't have to do that anymore. There was an intensity behind this that made Osawa sure it wasn't just some prank call. He had Hitomi come into the lab ASAP. He told Hitomi he wanted a sample of her blood for an experiment. She agreed, suspecting nothing. He placed some of the blood he'd drawn onto a glass slide, then added some fluorescein, a type of fluorescent dye. For a second when I, oh, it does say it. It is a type of fluorescent dye. That's what it says in the tip. Oh, its highest volume use is on St. Patrick's Day, when massive amounts of fluorescein are used to dye the Chicago River green.
Cool.
Is the environment okay with that? Maybe.
Probably fine.
It's fine. The Chicago River's still around, isn't it? Fluorescent dye is a type of dye that causes the dyed substance to emit higher wavelength fluorescent light when illuminated with a certain other type of light. Useful when you're using microscopes. Placing the slide under a fluorescence microscope, he took a look.
It can't be.
Osawa could hardly believe his eyes. Wriggling under the microscope was the Grim Reaper's sickle itself. There was no mistaking it. Hitomi was infected with the Uwo virus. Trembling, Osawa hurried to his computer. He opened the Uwu virus folder on his monitor. Within were images showing the stages of the virus's propagation. He double-clicked to magnify the first image. The Reaper's sickles were interlocked with one another. He clicked on the next image. After further propagation, the Uwu virus looked less like a sickle, more like a sort of insectoid larva. Next was the final image. Interlocked into a single mass, the Uwu virus vaguely resembled a sinister, many-petaled sunflower. It took a mere 12 hours for the pathogen to develop to this point and begin its hideous destruction of the human body. Tomi's infection sample was still in the state shown in the first image. There's still a chance to save her. Osawa slumped back in his chair, huddling in on himself. He had no choice. There's only one way to save Hitomi. he would have to administer the nearly completed antiviral. Using the antiviral without official approval was a grievous violation of company policy, which is when you act against company rules and regulations. In the case of a major violation, not only can the violator be fired, but the company may also seek indemnities. That sounds very bad. Still, Osawa didn't have time to get the higher-ups to approve the clinical trial. He might be punished severely for it, but this was his only option. His daughter's life was at stake. But there was also another, even bigger hurdle in his way. The antiviral drug was stored in the deepest recesses of the biochemical research building. A high-intensity X-ray scanner was set up at the entrance to the storage area. This made it impossible for him to take research materials out. You don't know what X-ray is? It's used for looking at the insides of things.
X stands for Rontgen.
Rontgen. Sorry, I was just kind of scanning it to see if there's anything like super interesting. Well, if he couldn't get the antiviral out of there, he'd just have to bring Hitomi in. A course of action quickly took shape in his mind. First, he'd need to slip out of the general research building. He would then head to the biochemical research facility and show his ID card to the guard at the front gate. If you don't know what an ID card is, it's an identification card. So, yeah, if people don't know who you are, they ask for your ID, and that's what you show them, usually. Oh, it's animated. After passing through a lobby under the watchful gaze of several security cameras, he'd reach an elevator at the end of the hall that went directly to the storage section. This elevator required an ID card scan to operate. It would take about 20 seconds to get down to the first basement level and arrive at the entrance to the storage area. Finding an excuse to get Hitomi that far ought to be doable. If the security guard got suspicious, Osawa could say it was for a top-secret hematology experiment, and the guard would probably believe him. The problem was what came after. Getting into the storage area itself required fingerprint authentication for both Osawa and Tanaka. This meant that he couldn't possibly get to the antiviral without Tanaka's cooperation. Desperate with uncertainty, Osawa called up Tanaka. He frantically explained the situation.
Understood.
Tanaka replied.
We need to get hit this drug as soon as possible. If the company finds out about this, they'll be held accountable for violation of corporate policy, along with me. Are you sure you're okay with that? What are you talking about? Tommy's life is more important than company policy.
Tanaka spoke without hesitation. Osawa felt an immense surge of gratitude for his assistant.
And I have to say, I'm deeply moved by your determination.
Tanaka added.
Well, whatever for. You really are worried about Hito.
Osawa's gratitude faded.
What are you talking about? Of course I am. My apologies. It's just that putting your career on the line for something so personal is... What? It's not like me. No. Well, Yes. I'm sorry.
Now Tanaka's voice was colored with embarrassment.
Ooh, nailed it. Just what sort of person do you think I am?
Osawa resisted the urge to ask the question out loud. A short time later, Osawa and Tanaka stood before the door to the secure storage area. The security guard had let them in without the slightest suspicion. Osawa pressed his index finger to the fingerprint scanner first.
Accepted.
He realized he'd been holding his breath as his authorization finally went through. Half a moment later, Tanaka touched his own finger to the scanner plate.
Accepted.
The lock released with an audible clang, and the heavy door opened. Osawa hurried to retrieve the antiviral. As he picked up the small vial, he had a sudden realization. They were finally going to use the drug in a human test. His fatherly wish to cure Hitomi was overlaid by an intense rush of curiosity, the researcher's drive to discover his results.
Hurry. I need to hurry. I need to administer the antiviral as soon as possible.
Osawa could hardly fend off his excitement. Over the course of the next few hours following the injection, the Ua virus would be eradicated from Hitomi's body. There had been some fever and cramping as temporary side effects, but the DDS had done a spectacular job of stomping out the virus. If you forgot what the DDS is, it's the drug delivery system. It's like Amazon, but for drugs. In saving his daughter's life, Osawa had proven the value of this research. If he had been asked which made him happier, he would have been hard-pressed to give an answer. Afterwards, he asked Hitomi where she could have become infected, but she had no idea. He explained the need for secrecy, and strictly forbade her from telling anyone else what had happened. Would you say forbade? Is it pronounced forbade or forbade?
Forbade.
Okay. I've heard that pronounced bad.
Forbade?
before. Like I was listening to an
No.
audiobook and they pronounced it forbade. And then
Was
there's-
it read by a non-native English speaker or
sounded
a robot?
English. There is another one. I did another game, and a character used the word bade, but said it as bod. They bod me or something.
I think you're getting the off-brand. I don't think it's the thing. I
Yeah,
think that you've encountered some strange people.
I don't know. It's just weird. It's just two instances of that pronunciation. Anyways, now a week had passed since Osawa gave the drug to Hitomi. He had been conducting checks and had discovered that the DDS had not broken down but remained in Hitomi's bloodstream. Extracting the DDS was a simple matter, requiring just a small blood sample from around the nape of the neck. The DDS tends to linger in the nape of the neck because of the lymph nodes located there. These lymph nodes identify viruses that invade the body as foreign substances to be attacked. They're not always able to overcome particularly powerful pathogens. In such cases, the virus propagates rapidly inside of it. Alright. The DDS itself was simply the delivery system for the antiviral drug. Residual amounts of the antiviral itself stayed behind within the cells. You don't know what residual means? It's when it remains in the body.
Yeah, but just residually.
Using the DDS, it was possible to extract those minuscule amounts from cells in a blood sample. It might take considerable time, but sufficiently detailed analysis could allow for the antiviral drug itself to be reconstructed. Osawa felt a chill as he contemplated the situation. The kidnappers had known how tough security was at the lab, so they'd come up with the idea of using a human vessel to get what they needed from within. By infecting Hitomi with the Uwa virus, they'd ensured that she'd receive the antiviral, that she'd have it in her blood.
Right.
If Tanaka was working with the kidnappers, that explained why he'd been so cooperative about the fingerprint scanner.
Damn it.
Osawa shouted. He clutched his head in his hands. Tanaka had been his partner and trusted confidant for years. Osawa refused to believe he'd been betrayed like this. The front door chime sounded.
Mr. Osawa,
Kajiwara called out.
it appears you have a visitor. Could you handle that?
Ooh, let's find out what a visitor is. If you didn't know what a visitor is,
It's Minorikawa.
it's just Minorikawa, but
Who could it possibly be, now of all times?
let's go talk to this John. All right.
With a sigh, Osawa dragged himself to his feet. He stumbled wearily back to the living room, where the investigators were staring at the intercom monitor with concern. They're just like surrounding it. The intercom's hidden camera showed a man with an unsettling grin posed intimidatingly outside the front gate. Osawa didn't recognize him.
Yes. Who is it?
He asked guardedly through the intercom.
It's Minorikawa. Where might I know you from, Mr. Minorikawa? Oh, here and there. I mean, there's only one Minorikawa, really. Are you playing games with me? I don't have the time for that. Please, just open up. There's no way I'm letting you in,
Osawa said, but the nonsensical badgering continued.
Look, just hold your horses. I'm here for an interview. You got that? An interview? That's right. It's a piece for 4-star general gossip.
The name of the magazine brought up an unpleasant memory. That was a gossip rag that had run the article about his political marriage.
Wait, this is for one of those kinds of articles? What do you mean, those kinds of articles? I'm just looking for an interview.
The man's tone was both high-handed and belligerent.
Like hell you are. I'm not talking to anyone from the gossip. You're not the one I'm here to talk to. I want to interview your twin daughters. My daughters? I understand they won a shared prize for a beauty contest at Midoriyama Academy. If you wouldn't mind my interviewing them,
Furious, Osawa cut off the intercom. This was no time to be indulging someone else's nonsense.
Hey, what gives?
Oh, I think that was Minorikawa.
Oh, hey, what gives?
The man was shouting so loud his voice carried past the gate and through the front door.
I am begging out here, on my hands and knees.
He wasn't actually on his hands and knees. Osawa could see that clearly through the intercom monitor.
If your daughters aren't home, can you at least tell them I want to get in touch with them?
Mr. Osawa,
Kajiwara said, frowning.
this isn't a good time to have someone drawing attention to your home.
All right, I'll get rid of him.
Osawa hurried out of the house, confronting Minorikawa through the front gate. He got a lot of jumps in Minorikawa. The journalist had that tenacious look that immediately marked him as a member of the media.
Give me your business card.
Osawa said.
I'll have them get in touch with you later.
He took Minorikawa's card, then went right back inside. Back in his study, Osawa tossed Minorikawa's business card into the trash. Unable to think of what else to do, he tried the internet fortune teller again.
Smart.
It's what I would do. He got the same, "you're a very work-minded person" result a second time.
If you don't get over your indifference to the world might start to harbor quite a grudge.
My indifference to the world around me, huh?
The truth was that even with his closest companions, even with Tanaka for instance, his relationship had always been strictly a matter of business. He'd never really taken it upon himself to get to know Tanaka as a person. And that was pretty much the case for everyone he knew. He harbored no interest in other people. He had no concern for his fellow man. That had made itself abundantly clear when he received a microscope as a birthday present way back in first grade. Even now, he still remembered the shock he'd felt when he looked through that lens for the first time. He discovered a new, almost infinite world hidden in the midst of one he'd always thought was too small. By comparison, the real world seemed bland and ugly. Wherever he looked, wherever he went, he had to contend with tedium. It hadn't taken long for him to become more charmed by the world under his microscope than the one around him. It was like a calm, quiet little seaside, a beach where he could just sit and stare out at the waves. He wanted to stay immersed in that world forever and ever. Before he knew it, he was an adult, and then a husband, and then a father. The people around him thought him an odd fellow, but he hadn't let that change the way he lived his life. And this, now, was the result. He hadn't been betrayed by Tanaka. He didn't know Tanaka well enough for that.
Find a way to connect more deeply with the people around you and start living a better life before it's too late. Just do that, and you're sure to have a wonderful future ahead.
Osawa picked up his cell phone and dialed Tanaka's number. I had tried calling him repeatedly and hadn't gotten through. It was doubtful that he'd pick up. Still, Osawa had to try. The phone rang several times. He listened grimly to the empty mechanical sound, preparing himself for disappointment.
What is it?
Tanaka's voice sounded coldly in Osawa's ear. The tension was electric. Oh, man. Alright. I wonder if we have a jump to him. Should I look for a jump, or do you want to do Minorikawa?
We can look for a jump.
Let's see. No, that's Archie. What is the timestamp? 14:35. I don't know if this is correct. This might not be the jump we're looking for. 14:20. Nope. Well, we might not have one. We think this is to Achi. Yeah, that's to Achi. Alright, I guess we have to do Minorikawa then. Alright, we're waiting again. Probably. Just almost 5 minutes. Okay, let's see what happens. Suddenly, a man's voice came through the intercom.
Yes, who is it?
He sounded rather guarded.
It's Minorikawa. Where might I know you from, Mr. Minorikawa? Oh, you know, here and there. I mean, there's only one Minorikawa, really. Are you playing games with me? I don't have the time for that. Please, just open up. There's no way I'm letting you in.
This discussion was getting them nowhere. Minorikawa decided he'd have to take the direct approach.
Look, just hold your horses. I'm here for an interview. You got that? An interview?
He'd taken the bait. Most folks could hardly resist the word interview.
That's right. It's a piece for 4-star general gossip. Wait, this is for one of those kinds of articles?
The man sounded angry now.
What do you mean, those kinds of articles? I'm just looking for an interview. Like hell you are. I'm not talking to anyone from the gossip. You're not the one I'm here to talk to. I want an interview with your twin daughters. My daughters?
No parent would deny their children a chance for a word of their achievements to spread.
I understand they won a shared prize for a beauty contest at Midoriyama Academy. If you wouldn't mind my interviewing them,
The intercom cut out before Minorikawa could finish.
Hey, what gives? I'm begging out here, on my hands and knees.
He wasn't actually on his hands and knees, but whoever was on the other end couldn't see that.
If your daughters aren't home, can you at least tell them I want to get in touch with them?
He wasn't even using the intercom now. He was just shouting over the gate. A man stepped out of the front door.
Give me your business card.
He said.
I'll have them get in touch with you later.
The man had a somewhat stricken look on his face. This had to be Kenji Osawa then. Wait. Hold on. Osawa? Now Minorikawa recognized him. This was Kenji Osawa, the preeminent virologist who worked for Akoshi Pharmaceutical. 4-star General Gossip had run a scandalous article on him in the past. Minorikawa remembered reading it. He held out his business card, and Osawa snatched it from him. The virologist started to head back into his house.
Please see that they get back to me, Mr. Osawa.
Minorikawa shouted after him. And then he noticed something odd. It was the middle of the afternoon, but every window in the house had its curtain drawn. That, combined with Osawa's demeanor, set off alarm bells in Minorikawa's head. He knew he was onto something, but he couldn't linger at the Osawa residence any longer than he already had. He needed to get to that theater ASAP. He hurried back to the taxi and told Kimizuka to go. A few minutes later, the rear tires skidded sharply as the cab came to a stop beside a different curb. The trip from Shoto to the theater in Sakuragaoka had taken almost no time at all. Here we are, sir, Kimizuka announced. I'm pretty sure I'm that guy.
Yeah, I think you're Kimizuka. Wow, that was fast.
Still, Minorikawa was at least 5 minutes behind schedule. He hoped he'd still be able to get the interview with Oarai. Alright, I think we've got to jump from Osawa. It might be this one. Wait, what's the timestamp? 1435. Okay. Alright, moving on. Minorikawa got his wallet out of his jacket to pay the driver. "Oh no," Kimizuka said, waving a hand. "Don't worry about the fare."
Why not?
"There's still plenty left over from what you paid me earlier, sir. That's what I meant by special fare." That's right. He'd paid Kimizuka a whole 10,000 yen for taking him to Endo Electronics earlier.
What? I mean,
"I'm not the sort of person to keep the change, as it were," Kimizuka said. Minorikawa felt a surge of pride at those words.
you're my kind of guy, Mr. Kimizuka.
"A man on the job can always count on Hachiro Kimizuka's taxi," the driver grinned. "Now go on. Go."
Thank you. I have a feeling we'll meet again. Do you ship these two?
Yeah, I ship him. I thought the special fare would be something else. A Minorikawa...
Oh, like those ads for, like, can I pay you in gum?
Yeah. As Minorikawa entered the theater lobby, he saw a bunch of flower bouquets, patrons' gifts of appreciation. Among the names of the senders were celebrities he'd recognized. Ooh. The largest of the bouquets were sent by Koichi Nakamura of the secret society Chunsoft. That's a pun because the developer of the game is Chunsoft. The next largest came from Marutaro Ishihara from the government organization Joy. These are probably like references to other video game people, I'm assuming. I wonder which ones are actual celebrities. Maybe like the baseball players stuff. I don't know. Have you ever
They
heard
could all
of
be.
ukulele player Hawaii Matsuda?
No. Is that the guy who sings Somewhere Over the Rainbow? And then he died?
I think that's someone else. I feel like
Oh,
he's from like he's an actual Hawaiian guy, not a Japanese ukulele player named after Hawaii.
damn.
Evidently, the Wandering Angels were a pretty popular acting troupe. Episode 4. I wish these came with like previously. Anyways, novice actor Takuya Amo, despite his nervousness, gave a creditable performance as Shido as the production got underway. But as the show continued, his inexperience became apparent. Oh yeah, that guy replaced the lead or something. The lead was
Had a cold.
got a cold from sleeping naked. He went on stage for the big wire action scene, having forgotten to attach himself to the rigging. Suzuka was quick to act, rushing on stage in an improvised role of assassin with an Edo accent #1 and fixing a rope to Amo's back during the confusion. His life was saved. Thank you, Tozuka. People were setting out pamphlets and flyers out on a nearby table. There was a palpable tension in the air. The crew seemed skittish as they went about their work. Alright, who do you want this guy to be?
I could be this guy.
Alright.
He's late.
Someone shouted all of a sudden. It was a man over in one corner of the lobby, railing angrily to nobody in particular.
Why the hell hasn't that journalist shown up yet for the interview?
Looked like he'd been waiting on Minorikawa then.
What's his deal, pulling this while we're this busy?
I think this is a thought.
Guess that's Shinsuke Oarai. I've been busy myself.
Minorikawa said, keeping his composure.
Trust me, I know how it goes. Huh? Who the hell are you? I'm the guy you've been waiting for. Mr. Orai.
The man glared at him.
It's Orai.
He said.
Anyway, I'm Minorikawa. Sorry to keep you waiting. Oh, really, a short wait is a small price to pay for the chance to be interviewed by me. Well, I hope you appreciate how valuable my time is, now that you're taking it.
Snapped Oarai.
Wow, someone sure has a high opinion of himself.
Minorikawa replied. He marched up to Oarai.
Damn right I do. I'm Shinosuke Oarai.
It's probably Shinosuke.
Shinosuke.
Kind of like
That's what I
skip
said.
the
Shinosuke.
ooh sound. It's just ske. Probably.
Shinosuke. Yeah, that's what I said.
Nailed it. The theater man got right up in Minorikawa's face.
Like anyone even cares.
A jolt of tension sparked between the two men. Ooh. Oh, we gotta jump to Osawa now. Right? Yeah, we got it. Around this time, there's a similar jolt of tension between two other people. Wow. All these men are
Enjoying jolts of tension.
yeah. Alright, who should be this lady?
You can be this lady.
I beg your pardon,
A woman interrupted.
but Mr. Owadai does have a schedule to keep.
And who are you? Miss...
Sukuzawa, I'm the producer.
Well, listen, Sue. I'm in the middle of an interview here. Please don't interrupt.
What? That's how you conduct an interview?
That's right. This is how I roll. Look. Whatever.
Owadai growled.
Let's do this already. Fine by me.
The two men sat down at opposite sides of the table in the lobby. But Tsukuzawa spoke up again.
Mr. Owadai, don't forget the meeting you have after this.
Yeah, handle that, would you?
Minorikawa let out a derisive snort.
It's like you're holding court.
He said,
Do people actually hang around you with that kind of attitude? You have no right to judge my acting troupe.
Minorikawa straightened up in his chair, a mocking smile on his lips.
Oh, so it's your acting troupe, huh?
He said,
Why not just play all the roles yourself? Heck, you could even be your own audience. How dare you?
Owadai rose to his feet and made to leave, but Tsukuzawa herded him back down into his chair. Minorikawa continued as if he hadn't heard.
Just what is it that you do, anyway?
He asked. Owadai raised an incredulous eyebrow.
You don't know? No, why should I? You came to an interview without knowing anything about who you were interviewing? Yep. That's it. Now get out.
Owadai roared and pointed angrily toward the exit.
How dare an unmannered clod like you come in here and waste my time? Hey, who's being unmannered now? I came all the way out here to hear your story, didn't I? Why don't you get out?
Minorikawa pointed at the exit as well.
Why the hell should I have to leave?
Owadai demanded.
This is my house.
If you don't know what a house is, it's just theater jargon for the theater itself. It's not actually his house. It's just his theater.
Look, just get out.
This time, both yelled and pointed toward the exit in unison. Nailed it. Sukazawa quickly interposed herself between them, forcing a smile.
Gentlemen, please calm down,
She said. Then she turned to Minorikawa.
you should be aware that Mr. Owarai used to be a broadcast writer. And if you don't know what that is, it's a writer for television or radio programs. And if you didn't know, a great show depends on not only the actors' performances, but on the skills of the broadcast writer, you know? He's responsible for a lot of big hits.
You don't need to mention that.
Owarai grumbled. Nonetheless, Sukazawa rattled off the names of several shows. Minorikawa did indeed recognize many of them.
Mm-hmm.
He murmured.
So how come you're running a failing theater now? Failing?
Owarai went red in the face.
I'm not wrong, am I? You are absolutely the rudest person I have ever met. What would a rank amateur like yourself know about theater?
Owarai's face was dark with rage. But Minorikawa didn't back down.
Listen, this has nothing to do with how well your theater is or isn't doing.
He snapped.
The television world wouldn't accept you. So in order to retain your pride as an entertainer, you started doing theater. Isn't that so? Don't act like you know anything. I've staked my entire life on the theater.
It seemed as if Owarai might throw a punch at any moment.
Sure, a city theater might seem small time compared to TV, but you get a lot more of a response from it. Response? Oh, now that sounds interesting. Darn right.
Owarai exclaimed.
You can see it from up on stage. The audience, you can see their faces.
There was a passion in Owarai's voice now.
You can really feel it. When the audience is enjoying themselves, you can feel that energy. You can't get that from doing television. Thinking back on it now, my time spent working on TV. Let's see, what's a good analogy? It's like being handed a towel that's already damp. No, that's not right. Okay, so a better analogy would be...
And without further preamble, Owarai began talking about his tribulations back in his broadcast writer days. Minorikawa smiled inwardly. Got him. The interview ended promptly after 15 minutes, the time that had been promised. Both men emerged from it as if from a daze. Minorikawa found himself staring Owarai in the face, shaking him by the hand.
So, what kind of story did I just get?
He asked, speaking half to himself.
You heard about one man and his life. And I have to admit, it was a good interview. Thanks. You have my gratitude.
With a satisfied smile, Minorikawa closed his notebook.
Right. Glad to hear that then.
Owarai inclined his head, looking a bit bewildered. A flustered Sukazawa interrupted. Or maybe that was me.
Pardon me.
Mr. Minorikawa, wasn't this interview for a piece about the performance?
Huh?
Minorikawa blinked.
It's just that you were only asking about Mr. Owarai and not about the performance itself.
Sukazawa said.
Oh, I see what you mean. Actually, I came here for a piece I'm going to be writing called... Where are they now? Washed Up Broadcast Writer Showcase. I washed up?
Owarai was red in the face all over again.
You bastard. How dare you? Forget everything I just told you. I do not give you permission to use it in your magazine. You're too late. What? I've already heard your whole story. You should be grateful that I'll be writing a piece on it. You bastard!
With a wild look in his eyes, Oarai snatched up a hammer the stage crew had left nearby. Oh. Do you want to say wait, go ahead, hit me, or ouch?
Go ahead, hit me. Go ahead, hit me. Oh, I'll hit you all right.
Oarai waved the hammer menacingly. But the attack came to a sudden halt as a ringtone startled him out of his fury.
Hold on a moment.
Minorikawa said brightly.
I have to take this.
He whipped out his cell phone.
Hello? Minorikawa speaking.
Oh.
This is Osawa.
Wow. He'd called back a lot sooner than Minorikawa had expected.
Have your daughters come home then? No. Actually, there's a favor I'd like to ask you.
A favor? Minorikawa thought back to his visit to the Osawa residence. The drawn curtains, the stricken look on Osawa's face, Minorikawa's instincts had sensed something significant was going on. Apparently, getting the full story wasn't going to come without some cost.
A favor, huh? Is it something urgent? I'll pay whatever I have to. I just need you to look into something as quickly as possible.
His voice had the telltale desperation of a man who'd been backed into a corner.
All right,
Minorikawa said.
I can help you out for a little while.
Osawa hurriedly explained what he was after. The request was a strange one. He wanted Minorikawa to look into a scandalous article that 4-star general gossip had run about him in the past.
What makes this so important? Do I have to say? I mean, you're asking me to look into something without explaining anything.
He eyed Oarai, lurking nearby with obvious irritation. Minorikawa would need to calm down the erstwhile broadcast writer, or else his interview really would be for naught. He decided to bluff both men at the same time.
Let me just say one thing.
He said into the phone. He made sure he spoke loud and clear so that Oarai would overhear.
I want to tell the world this story. No, I need to tell it. If I don't feel that way about something, no amount of money in the world will get me to write an article on it. That's my pride as a writer at work.
Minorikawa could see Oarai's aura of rage fading as he listened. The theater man looked surprised.
Whoa.
Meanwhile, Osawa had decided to open up a bit.
All right.
He said.
I can't share all the details, but... Okay, he's in a talkative mood now. Good job, Minorikawa. See, this is going fine. The power balance of the entire world might be at stake here.
Osawa continued.
And I mean that quite literally. I can tell you more after you're done investigating.
Wait, was he serious? How could the world's balance of power hinge on looking into some alleged marital affair? It was so absurd that Minorikawa had to fight the urge to burst out laughing. A person would need to be out of his mind to believe a story like that. But Minorikawa wasn't the average person. And sometimes, the truth was so ridiculous it really was stranger than fiction. Osawa wasn't lying. Minorikawa's instincts told him that much.
All right,
He said.
I'll check the editing department's notes from back then.
Minorikawa felt his excitement building. Things were really getting interesting. For the moment, he nearly forgot Toyama and his troubles. When he ended the call, Owarai approached him and extended his hand.
Listen, your methods might be a little extreme, but I can tell you take pride in your work.
Of course I do.
I'm sorry for getting so worked up. I bet you'd write a fine article about me. So please, Mr. Minorikawa, let the world know about me and my half-lived life.
Minorikawa took the offered hand and shook it.
Leave it to me. Once I'm done with it, you won't just be some washed up nobody anymore. Mr. Orai.
It's Owarai.
Minorikawa grinned. Minorikawa rushed out of the theater. He'd completed all the interviews that he could get done before 4 o'clock. Now he had an hour left to write it all up to convince the folks from the loan company that the gossip could stay afloat.
Rah!
He let out a roar, psyching himself up for the final push. All right. Did you want to finish Osawa and finish up the hour, or
Yeah, sure. Let's finish up Osawa.
Okay. I think the jump is here. Yeah. The jolt of tension. Osawa picked up his cell phone and dialed Tanaka's number. The phone rang several times. He listened grimly to the empty, mechanical sound, preparing for himself for disappointment.
What is it?
Oh no, that's Tanaka.
What is it?
Tanaka's voice sounded coldly in Osawa's ear. The tension was electric. It's electric. Boogie woogie woogie. Osawa felt a surge of outrage. He wanted to scream. But he took a deep breath and managed to maintain control.
Tanaka, where are you? Is Maria all right?
Tanaka did not reply.
The police told me. They said you were connected to the kidnapping.
A soft chuckle came from the other end of the line.
Ah, well, the police sure do know how to do their jobs.
Tanaka's tone was unapologetic. He sounded nothing like the man Osawa thought he knew so well.
How can you do this? Money? Are you having money troubles? Money?
Tanaka replied.
I suppose that's part of it. Honestly, I doubt you'd understand. Do you have any idea what it's been like for me, doing our research together? You're always the one who takes center stage. The fruits of our success are all yours. Even though you couldn't have done any of it without me.
The more he said, the more vitriol seethed into his words. Osawa's hand trembled as he clutched the phone.
The taker can never understand how it feels to be taken from. You've hoarded so many things to yourself. So I'm taking some of them back.
And with that, he hung up.
Hey, Tanaka.
Osawa dialed the number again, but Tanaka didn't pick up. Osawa racked his brain, thinking back on how Tanaka had been acting earlier that day. Had there been anything unusual? Any clue at all, no matter how small? Like that moment in the bathroom? If he could find some hint, maybe he'd be able to find Maria and Hitomi. That was it. I had been suspicious of Tanaka all along, so much so that she'd planted a bug on him hidden in a tie clip. Her suspicions must have been pretty strong.
But wait,
Osawa recalled what Kajiwara had said.
But still, if she is that worried, giving a tie clip as a gift is a bit.
The words had struck Osawa as odd when he first heard them. I had never given him a tie clip. His heart gave a heavy throb in his chest. It couldn't be. No, it was impossible. That article from 4-Star General Gossip crept back into his mind. The article had talked about a man I had dated before she married Osawa. The man's identity was never revealed. Could it have been Tanaka?
you hoarded so many things to yourself, so I'm taking some of them back.
Tanaka's cold words took on a new depth of meaning. Osawa felt the foundations of his life begin to crumble. Were Tanaka and I accomplices in all this?
No. Wait. Just calm down.
He couldn't let himself jump to conclusions. He needed to be more level-headed. Everything depended on it. If the two really were accomplices, why would I have planted a bug on Tanaka? What purpose would that serve? What could it mean? It was no use. Osawa couldn't think of how that made sense.
First things first.
He needed to establish what the relationship between I and Tanaka really was. Once he figured that out, he'd be able to get a better handle on the situation. Obviously, he couldn't just go and ask I directly. If she really were involved in all this, she certainly wouldn't tell him the truth. Osawa thought back to the business card he'd tossed into the trash. He didn't relish the thought of getting help from that scavenging hyena, but now was no time to be picky. If he wasn't able to leave the house, he needed someone else to do some investigating for him. The freelance writer, Minorikawa. He was Osawa's only hope. All
We
right.
see.
To be continued. Let me get a little preview. All right. So we made it to 3 o'clock. That's a good time to stop, right?
Yeah.
You got any thoughts, impressions, theories? Are there any parts?
I think that they might be after Hitomi because she has antiviral.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think you might be onto something. Why do you think Kano's girlfriend's dad needs the antiviral? That's your running theory,
for
right?
his-
That he's behind all of this.
Yeah. For his vegetables, probably. Because if they get the Uru virus, then they'll be. I mean, you can't sell them anymore.
That's true. You can't sell that kind of stuff. It'd be bad for business.
Yeah, it's bad PR.
That probably means like his crops are currently like laced with this stuff. I don't know how it got in there. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, there's still several hours left to tie up those couple of loose ends that we got. But I think we're onto something. Got a pretty strong framework here. What's going on?
Well, we finished the hour. Do you have any closing thoughts? Is that how I put it? Transition to food. I don't know if I have anything interesting about food.
Yeah, no words of wisdom from me this week.
Let's see, what would be a good closing statement? Always be proud of your of being a writer, or no, that doesn't work.
Sure it does.
It does?
You just have to say it with authority. Always be proud of being a writer.
All right. Well, that's the episode for today. We're gonna get into the 20s. This series is getting into the 20s next episode.
Oh yeah, those terrible 20s.
So, listeners, always be proud of being a writer. I said it with authority.
Nailed it.
All right. See you guys.
You first.